Hey, welcome. So today we're going to talk about garden pests, but with a totally different game plan. We're going to get you off that frustrating treadmill of just spraying and praying and move into a much smarter strategy that actually works with nature instead of fighting against it.
Does this whole scene feel a little too familiar? You know, you spot some chewed up leaves, you grab a spray bottle, everything looks good for maybe a week, and then they're back, sometimes even worse than before. It is such a common, frustrating cycle. But what if I told you the whole strategy, this idea of declaring all-out war on pests, is the very reason you're losing?
Okay, let's really dive into this, because it's all about a huge shift in how you think. The old way, right, it's constant war. The goal is to kill every single bug you see. But the problem is, when you spray reactively, you cause all this collateral damage. You end up killing the good bugs too. The new way, which is what we're talking about, is all about creating balance. The goal isn't a bug-free garden. It's about proactively managing pests to build a garden that's truly resilient and healthy on its own.
So, let's start with this new philosophy. And I want to be clear, this isn't just about swapping your chemical spray for an organic one. No, this is a whole new system for thinking about the long-term health of your garden.
And that system has a name: Integrated Pest Management, or IPM. Now, the phrase I really want you to notice here is below a damaging level. See, IPM isn't about creating some sterile, bug-free bubble. It's a system that totally accepts that some pests are always going to be around. And you know what? That's okay, as long as they aren't causing real, significant harm.
And wow, this quote just nails it, doesn't it? This is the heart and soul of the entire IPM philosophy. It's about management, not annihilation. Because tolerating a little bit of pest activity is actually a good thing. Why? Because those pests are food for the beneficial insects you really want to attract to your garden.
So, how do we actually put this into practice? Well, it all starts with becoming a garden detective. Before you even think about taking action, you've got to know exactly who or what you're dealing with. So, let's go look for some clues. Okay, our first category of suspects, the sucking pests. You can think of these guys as tiny vampires for your plants. They have these specialized little mouthparts that let them pierce right into the plant tissue and suck out all the good stuff. And they leave behind some very specific evidence.
So what clues are we looking for at the crime scene? If you see a bunch of yellow speckles on the leaves, think mites. See new leaves that are all curled up and distorted? Classic aphid work. A huge piece of evidence is that sticky honeydew, and let's be real, it's bug poop, which then leads to this gross black sooty mold. Oh, and also keep an eye out for the little white skins aphid leave behind, or that cottony stuff that just screams mealybugs.
Now, for our second group of suspects, the chewers. These guys are a whole different story. Unlike the delicate sucking pests, these ones physically eat chunks of your plant, and they leave behind much more obvious, much more brutal evidence.
Their calling cards are pretty hard to miss. Raggedy leaves full of holes, a sure sign of caterpillars or slugs. And the smoking gun? Look for their little droppings, which is called frass. But there's a more sinister type of chewer, the internal borer. If you see an entire branch suddenly wilt and die out of nowhere, it's a terrifying sign that something is eating your plant from the inside out.
Okay, here it is. This is your detective's cheat sheet. This table puts it all together for you. It connects the symptom you're seeing, like yellow speckling, directly to the likely culprit, say spider mites, and the key visual clues, like fine webbing, that will confirm your diagnosis. This right here is the absolute critical first step before you do anything else.
All right, now that we know how to ID the problem, let's talk about the most powerful part of IPM, and honestly, your new superpower: prevention. These are the things you can do to make your garden so tough and resilient that big pest outbreaks just become a rare event.
And here's your first and probably simplest tool. A really strong blast of water is incredibly effective against soft-bodied pests like aphids and mites. The crucial detail here is to really aim for the undersides of the leaves, because that's where they hide. This doesn't just knock them off. For spider mites, it destroys their webbing and washes away the dusty conditions they absolutely love. It's so simple, but it does so much.
Slugs and snails love one thing above all else: moisture. So to control them, you just make your garden a place they hate. Switch to drip irrigation so the leaves stay dry. Water in the morning, not at night. And this is a big one. Get rid of their hiding places. Old boards, big piles of leaves, empty pots. Clean it all up. No shelter, no slugs. It's really that simple.
Okay, this is where it gets really, really cool. Instead of you having to fight this battle alone, you can actually recruit an army to fight for you. We're talking about attracting beneficial insects, nature's own pest control service, to come and protect your garden.
But, and this is a big one, here is the golden rule. It is so much more effective to conserve the native good bugs that are already in your area than it is to go out and buy a carton of ladybugs to release. And why is that? Because the local guys are already adapted to your climate and your pests. You're building a much more robust, self-sustaining system by supporting them.
So how do you attract these powerful allies? Well, you plant the flowers they love. But here's a key detail you might not know. Size matters. To be really effective, you need to plant them in patches that are at least this wide. 3 feet in diameter. Yeah, that big. And the reason is that a big, dense patch of flowers is just a much more visible, attractive target for them to find. And as you can see here, you can get super strategic about it. Got a caterpillar problem? Plant some dill to attract tachinid flies. Dealing with aphids? Some spearmint will bring in the damsel bugs. You are literally planting a 5-star resort for your bodyguards.
Okay, so you've done your prevention, you've recruited your allies, but you still have a pest problem that's crossing that damage threshold. Now, and only now, do we open up the toolkit of targeted sprays. This is your last resort, and it demands precision.
When it comes to caterpillars, you've basically got 2 main organic options. Think of BT as a sniper rifle. It's this bacterium that produces a toxin that is lethal only to caterpillars. It is incredibly precise. Spinosad, on the other hand, is more like a shotgun. It's still derived from a soil bacterium, but it's broad spectrum, meaning it can harm some of your good bugs too. The IPM hierarchy is crystal clear. Always use the most specific tool first. Use BT for caterpillars whenever you possibly can. Now, for pests like aphids, neem oil is a common go-to. It basically messes with their ability to feed and reproduce. Here's a standard, simple recipe to mix it yourself. You just shake it up really well and you're good to go. But when you apply it, oh, that is absolutely critical if you want to protect pollinators.
And listen, this part is completely non-negotiable. To protect our vital pollinators, you have to apply any spray, I don't care if it's neem, insecticidal soap, anything, only in the late evening or the very early morning. We call this the critical timing rule. It makes sure the spray has totally dried before bees get active for the day, and that drastically reduces their exposure.
And here's one more critical number you have to remember. Never, ever apply insecticidal soaps or oils when the temperature is above 80 degrees Fahrenheit or about 27 Celsius. If you do, you run a huge risk of scorching and seriously damaging your plant's leaves. Now, when you combine this with the pollinator rule, you realize your window for spraying safely can actually be pretty small.
So after all of this, the thought I really want to leave you with is this. You know, we've all been taught to see any bug as an enemy, and any chewed leaf as some kind of failure on our part. But what if that's just wrong? What if a truly healthy, resilient garden isn't the one that's sterile and flawless, but is actually the one that's just buzzing with a complex, chaotic web of life? Predators, prey, and everything in between. It's a different way to look at things, for sure.